Hi, I'm Anita. Welcome to another video. Today I'm going to be doing a festive pair of earrings. We're going to be doing the Grinch. As you can see in front of you, I have all of the materials listed, laid out. I will have exact counts and the Delica color numbers listed in the description box. That will give you the exact measurements of how many you need of each color. You're also going to need some earring findings and a couple of wire guardians, sharp pair of scissors, and a flat nose I'm using just to help flatten the fireline to help make threading a little bit easier. I'm using a size 10 beading needle today, and you're going to need a total of 14 feet of fireline. Each earring will take approximately 7 feet, and I believe that is everything. So let me clear my area and we'll get started. Oh, the other thing you might want to get is a little bead shovel, and that will help get our beads in the order of each row that we're going to be doing. One more thing I'm going to mention is I will be listing each row with the counts for each color as we go along. Hopefully that'll make it easier for you. If you want to join me, you can grab all your beads and bead along with me. So let me get my area cleared and we'll get started. So as you can see, I have all of my colors laid out here. I'll go over these quickly to give you an idea of what color they are. This first pile here, this is a silver lined red. This is a very dark, like a forest green. This is a medium green. It's translucent green line luster. This one is a bright called Opaque Kiwi. And then this is just an opaque white. And this is just a plain old opaque red. And I have a few galvanized gold. You don't need very many of those. And then galvanized silver. So there are all of the beads. I'll show you a quick sketch of the pattern. And this is what I drew based on my research. You can buy this graph paper anywhere in any craft store, but I drew it out just to give you an idea, and then I figured out the counts for each row and where I wanted to start. So we're going to be doing the top half of this earring, starting somewhere around here, and then we'll turn around and then we'll do this bottom part here. So the reason I put a ruler on the part of the materials you probably want to have is when I do the instructions, I like to put a ruler down, and that way I know what row I'm doing. And as I do each row, I lay out all of my beads. Just a tip for you, if you're a beginner beader and just now learning how to do brick stitch, because this is a pretty complicated pattern, you want to make it as easy as possible with no errors, because doing an error on this type of design will totally make the face look funny, or the eyebrows will be crooked. So you want to be careful to follow along and make sure that you've got all your beads verified of what comes next. So we're going to start with the first row, and I'll be telling you what the counts are as we go along, and I'll also have these up on the screen for you. Once we get past the first 3 rows, I'm going to speed up through the process, but I will leave the counts up as I go through each row with you so you know what's next. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is thread our needle, and I've got about 7 feet of fireline on here, and what we're going to do is lay out our first row. So our first row needs a total of 3 light green Delicas, so I'm going to pull those out with my shovel. I'm just going to set those over here. Now I need 2 dark green. I'm going to grab 2, like that. Now I need 2 light green. Pull those out. I need a medium green, just 1, so I'm pulling that one out. I need 2. Okay, 1 medium green. I need 1 more light green. 2 dark green. 3 light green. All right, let's double check that. That should be 3 light green, 2 dark green, 2 light green, 1 medium green, 1 light green, 2 dark green, and 3 light green. So that's what's laid out for the first row. So we're doing brick stitch today. So what we're going to do, the first thing you're going to do is pick up your first 2 beads. And my first 2 beads are going to be 2 light greens. So I pick up 2 of my light green, like that. I'm going to bring that down, and I want to leave about 2.5 feet for a tail, for my tail thread. So let me measure that out. Okay, so now that I've got my 2 beads on, this is my working thread, and I'm going to bring my needle back through the first bead. Like that. Pull. And that's going to stack those 2 Delicas next to each other, like that. Now I'm going to go down through this bead, and I'm going to reinforce this. So I'm going to go down, then back up, and then down, like that. Because I want this to be secure. This is the beginning of my first row. So now I'm going to pick up another light bead. So I'm exiting this Delica here. I'm going to bring my needle in through the top. And the first two rows are always the most awkward. So just kind of hold on to it the best way you can. And these should stack next to each other. So I've got that bead I just added. So I want to bring my needle back up through the bead I just added. So that's what we have. Now we're going to pick up a dark bead. Go through that Delica, through the opposite side of where the thread is. Now bring your needle back through the bead that you just added. We're going to pick up another dark bead. Going through the opposite side where your thread is. Pull. Now you want your needle to go back up through the bead you just added. And you're going to repeat those steps until we get all the colors added. So I just added my second dark green bead. Now I'm going to pick up two light beads one at a time and continue. Now go back down. Pick up another light bead. And go back up that bead. And just pinch and pull as you go along. So that's what we have so far. Now we need to pick up a medium color green bead. And if you have them all laid out in front of you, it makes it a lot easier than having to go back and forth and look at your notes. Just a tip for anybody who's learning how to do bird stitch, and especially learning a pattern with a lot of detail, like this one. Okay, so now we're going to pick up a light bead. Go through that last bead. Pull. Now go back up that bead you just added. Now we have to pick up a dark bead. Go down that last bead, add. Pick up another dark bead. And just make sure these stack neatly next to each other. Now go back up that bead you just added. Pinch and pull. That's what we have so far. Now we have 3 light beads left to add. There's a 2, second one, got one more after this. And just try to keep your attention consistent. So I'm picking up the last light bead. And then bring your needle back through the bead you just added. And that completes the first row. So it's going to be a little wonky. So this is what it should look like. So we're going to set this down and we're going to prepare for our second row. So for row 2, you need 3 light green. So I'm going to pull those out. 1 dark green. 3 light green. 1 medium green. 3 light green. 1 dark green. And 3 light green. So that should be 3 light green, 1 dark green, 3 light green, 1 medium green, 3 light green, 1 dark green, and 3 light green. Okay, so this is what you have your first row with all of your beads stuck next to each other, and your thread is coming out of this last Delica here. So from here on out, we're going to be going underneath the thread bridges from where our needle is coming out, that side. So we're going to pick up our first 2 green beads, add those on. So here's my 2 that I just picked up. And I'm going under the first thread bridge right here. So pinch and hold that together with your fingers and pull gently. And you want those beads to kind of stack like that. So now we're going to go back through the last bead we just added right here. Like that. So just kind of pinch that between your fingers, pull your thread nice and snug. So this is what you should have, like that, with those 2 just slightly sticking out like that. So now we're going to pick up, from here on, we're just picking up 1 bead at a time from the rest of our color row here, picking up a light bead, and I'm going under the next thread bridge. So I've got my light bead, and I'm going under the very next thread bridge, right here, like that. So just pinch, pull gently, And now bring your needle back through the bead you just added, like that. Pinch and pull. Pick up the dark bead, go into the next thread bridge, like that. The first 2 or 3 rows are usually the hardest, but just take your time, gently pinch and pull as you add each bead, and they'll start to straighten out. So now we're picking up a light bead, going under the next thread bridge, like that. Go back up the bead you just added, like that. Trying to get my camera focus here. There we go. Okay. Pull. Pick up the light bead. Go under the next thread bridge. Bring your needle back through the bead you just added. Pick up another white bead. Go under the next thread bridge. Right here. Bring your needle back through the bead you just added. Now we're picking up a medium green. Go under the next thread bridge. Right there. Bring your needle back through the bead you just added. Now we're picking up a light bead. Light green. Go through the next thread bridge. Right there. Go back up to the bead you just added. Pinch and pull. Pick up another light green bead. Go into the next thread bridge. Go back up the bead you added. Pinch and pull. Pick up another light green. Go into the next thread bridge. Kind of hard to get in there, but just try to make sure your work is not twisted around. There we go. That's the thread bridge you want to be under. Now go back up that bead. Pinch and pull. Now we're picking up a dark green bead, going under the next thread bridge. Right there. Go back up that bead. Now we have 3 light green beads left to add. And that one came out, so let's do that again. If you don't go into your Delica correctly, you can pop your bead off. So just be careful when you're doing this. Go back up under that thread bridge. Let's try that again. So we want to go through the Delica without exiting the thread. Like that. Let's see if that did it. Pinch and pull. So that's on. Got 3 more light beads left to add. Pick up a light green bead and go under the next thread bridge. It's a challenge when you're at the end here because you don't have very much to hang on to, so just kind of do the best you can. Now go back up that bead you just added. Pinch and pull. Now we're going to pick up another light green bead. Go under this last thread bridge. Like that. Pull. Then go back up the bead you just added. Like that. Pull. We got 1 more bead to add. And since that was our last thread bridge, we have to go under that same thread bridge again. So just bring your needle back through the same thread bridge we just went under. Like that. And that's going to increase that row by 1. So now you want to go back up the bead you just added. Like that. Pinch and pull. And that completes row 2. So this is what you should have. So we're going to set this down and grab our beads for row 3. So for row 3, we need 3 light greens, 1 dark green, 4 light green, 1 medium green, 3 light green, 1 dark green, and 3 light green. So to verify, that should be 3 light green, 1 dark green, 4 light green, 1 medium green, 3 light green, 1 dark green, and 3 light green. So to do row 3, you're always picking up 2 beads on the start of your next row. So we're going to pick up 2 of the 3 light greens. And we're going under the first thread bridge again. So here's our thread coming out here. We're going under the first thread bridge right there. Now you want to bring your needle back through the last bead you just added. Like that. Pinch and pull your thread. So that's what it should look like. So from here we're picking up 1 bead at a time, going under the next thread bridge. So I'm going to do the first few with you. We're picking up a light color, going under the next thread bridge. Now you're going back up the bead you just added. Oops. All right, I got a knot here. Let me untangle that. It always sucks when you get a knot in your thread, but it happens. So you want to kind of take your time as you're going through this. I just added that third light green bead, and make sure that's facing the right way. So now we're going to pick up our dark green bead, going under the next thread bridge, like that. Go back up that bead you just added. So now we're going to pick up a light green, go to the next thread bridge, like that. Go back up that bead. Pick up another light green, go into the next thread bridge. Go back up that bead. Pick up another light green, go into the next thread bridge. Go back up that bead. And continue that same process. Light green bead, next thread bridge. Back up the bead you just added, and so forth. Medium green bead. Go back up that bead. Light green bead. Go back up that bead. Light green bead. Go back up that bead. Light green bead. Go back up that bead. Dark green bead. Light green bead. Now I'm coming to the last thread bridge, and I've got 2 beads left. So we're going to pick up the first one, go under the last thread bridge, go back up that bead, pick up your last light green bead, and go under that last thread bridge again, like that. Now go back up that bead, pinch and pull, and that completes row 3. So this is what you should have. I'm going to set that down, and we're going to lay out row 4. For row 4, we need 1 light green, 1 dark green, another dark green. So you actually need light green, 2 dark greens, 4 light greens, 1 golden bead, 4 light green, 2 dark green, and 1 light green. So to recap, for row 4, it should be 1 light green, 2 dark green, 4 light green, 1 golden, 4 light green, 2 dark green, 1 light green. All right, so we're beginning with row 4. You're picking up your first 2 beads, and in this case it's going to be a light green and a dark green are your first 2 beads that you're picking up. And we're going this time under the second thread bridge from where our thread is exiting. So this is your first thread bridge, this is your second thread bridge. So that's where we want to go under. Pull your thread, and you are wanting to go back up the last bead you just added, which is this dark one here on the left. Pull your thread, so just pinch that together, pull your thread. Now we want to reinforce, go back down the bead on the right, and then up the bead on the left to straighten that outside bead out. And you only have to do reinforcing when you are going under the second thread bridge at the beginning of your row. So now that we've added those 2 beads on, we're going to continue adding 1 bead at a time, going under the next thread bridge all the way across. So picking up our next dark green bead, going under the next thread bridge, and then back up the bead you added. So continue picking these up, and I'm going to continue adding, and I'm going to have the counts listed above for your reference. And I'll meet you at the end. Okay, we're coming to the last light bead, going under the last thread bridge. That completes row 4. So now we're going to prep for row 5. For row 5, you need 3 light green, 1 medium green, 1 light green, 2 whites, 2 golden, 2 whites, 1 light green, 1 medium green, and 3 light greens. So to recap, for row 5, you need 3 light green, 1 medium green, 1 light green, 2 whites, 2 goldens, 2 whites, 1 light green, 1 medium green, 3 light green. To start row 5, you're going to pick up your first 2 beads, always picking up 2 on the beginning of your row, 2 light greens, and this is going under the first thread bridge. So we're increasing here. So under the first thread bridge, like that. Since it's the first thread bridge, you do not have to reinforce. So just go back up the last bead you added. That's how it should look. And continue picking up your beads. So we're picking up our next light bead, going under the next thread bridge. Then back up the bead you just added. And continue adding these beads until we get to the end. Okay, we're coming down to our last 2 beads, going under this last thread bridge. Adding our last light green bead, going under the very last thread bridge that we already went through, right there. Go back up that bead you just added, pinch and pull. That completes row 5. This is what you should have. So for row 6, we need 4 light green, 1 white, 1 silver lined red, 1 dark green, 1 light green, 1 dark green, 1 silver lined red, 1 white, 4 light green. So the silver lined red I'm using for the eyes, so that they look a little glowy. So to recap, for row 6, you need 4 light green, 1 white, 1 silver lined red, 1 dark, 1 light green, 1 dark green, silver lined red, 1 white, and 4 light green. So we're starting row 6, picking up 2 light green beads, like that, and we're going under the second thread bridge from where our thread is exiting. There's 1, there's 2. Go back up the bead you just added and reinforce this. So go back up the bead on the left, go down the bead on the right, and then back up the bead on the left. And continue adding the rest of your beads going under each thread bridge till you get to the end. Okay, we're coming to our last light green bead, going under the last thread bridge for row 6. Go back up the bead we just added, pull, and that completes row 6. This is what you should have. And now we're going to prep for row 7. So for row 7, we need 2 light green, 3 dark green, 2 light green, 3 dark green, 2 light green. Let's back up. Okay, that should be 2 light green, 3 dark green, 2 light green, 3 dark green, 2 more light green. So to recap, for row 7, 2 light green, 3 dark green, 2 light green, 3 dark green, 2 light green. So we're going to start row 7. However, for row 7, we need to advance our thread so that we're exiting the second to the last bead. So right now our thread is coming out of this far left Delica. We want our thread to be coming out of this bead instead. So to do that, we're going to advance our thread down through these 2 beads like that. Pull our thread. Now we're going up through this Delica on the right and up through that next to the last Delica, because that's where our thread needs to be to start row 7, right there. So from here, we're picking up our first 2 beads, 2 light beads, and we're going under the second thread bridge from where our thread is exiting. So there's our thread. There's the first thread bridge next to the thread you're exiting, and here it's the second thread bridge. That's where we want to go in through. Now go back up the last bead you added. Down the left bead to reinforce, and then back up the right bead. Now we're ready to continue picking up the rest of our beads, 1 bead at a time, under the next thread bridge all the way across. So go ahead and do that, and I'll meet you at the end. Okay, we're coming to the last light bead for this row, going under the next thread bridge. Go back up that bead, and that completes row 7. That's what you should have. So now we'll continue for row 8. For row 8, you need 2 dark green, 3 light green, 1 medium green, 3 light green, and 2 dark green. So to recap, it's 2 dark green, 3 light green, a medium green, 3 light green, and 2 dark green for row 8. So we start by picking up our first 2 beads, which are 2 dark greens, and we're going under the second thread bridge. There's 1, and there's 2. So now we're going to bring our needle back up the last bead we added. Now we're going down the green bead on the right, and then back up the bead on the left. Now continue picking up the rest of row 8, and I'll meet you at the end. So this is our last dark green bead going under the last thread bridge. This completes row 8. And now we'll get our beads ready for row 9. For row 9, we'll need 1 dark, 1 medium, 3 light, 2 medium green, 3 light green, 1 medium green, and 1 dark green. So to recap, for row 9, 1 dark, medium, 3 light, 2 medium, 3 light, 1 medium, 1 dark. So start by picking up your first 2 beads, which is 1 dark, 1 medium. And we're going under the very next thread bridge from where your thread is. Right there, very first one. Now go back up the last bead you added. No need to reinforce on this one. And continue adding the rest of your beads until we get to the end. Coming down to our last 2 beads, going under this last thread bridge. Going back up the bead we just added, picking up our last dark bead, going under the last thread bridge again. Going back up the bead we just added, and that completes row 9. Now we're ready to go on to row 10. For row 10, we need 1 silver, 1 medium, 1 light, 2 medium, 1 light, 2 medium, 1 light, 1 medium, and 1 silver. So to recap, for row 10, we need a silver, a medium, a light, 2 medium, 1 light, 2 medium, 1 light, 1 medium, and 1 silver. So to start, you're picking up your first 2 beads, which in this case is a silver and a medium, and you're going under the second thread bridge. There's 1, there's 2. We have to reinforce. Go up the last bead you added, go down the Delica on the right, then back up the Delica on the left. Pull. That's what you should have to start. Now continue adding the rest of the beads in this sequence until you get to the end. Okay, we're on our last bead, silver, going into the last thread bridge for row 10. I'll go back up the bead we added, and that completes row 10. Now we'll prep for row 11. We'll need 2 silver, 8 white, and 2 silver. 2 silver. It's kind of hard to see these white, but we need a total of 8 whites. And then 2 more silver. So it's 2, 8, and 2 for row 11. So we start by picking up our first 2 beads, which is 2 silver. And we're going under the next thread bridge from where our thread is, right there. Now go back up the last bead you added. No need to reinforce. So now we continue picking up each bead until we get to the end. So we're coming down to our last 2 silver beads, going under the last thread bridge, one at a time. Go back up the bead you just added. Now pick up our last silver bead and go under the last thread bridge again, right there. Now go back up the last bead you added. And that completes row 11. Now we're going on to row 12. For row 12, we need 2 silver, 2 more silver. It's actually 4 silver, 3 white, and 4 silver. 4, 3, and 4 for row 12. So to start, we're picking up our first 2 beads, which in this case is 2 silver beads, and we're going under the second thread bridge from where our thread is exiting. There's 1, there's 2. Going under the second thread bridge, we have to reinforce. So go back up the last bead you added, go down the bead on the right, and then back up the bead on the left, and continue adding the rest of your beads 1 bead at a time in this sequence under each thread bridge until you get to the end. So we're picking up our last silver bead for row 12, going into the last thread bridge. Back up the bead you just added. And that completes row 12. For row 13, we're going to be switching to using the opaque red. Now we're done with the silver line red. We don't need those anymore, so I'm going to push those out of the way. So for opaque red, we need 1 opaque red and 10 silver beads. 1 red and 10 silver. So to start, you're going to pick up your first 2 beads, which is a red and a silver. And we're going under the second thread bridge from where your thread is exiting. There's 1, there's 2. Going under the second thread bridge, we need to reinforce. So go back up the bead you just added, go down the bead on the left, and then back up the bead on the right. Now continue adding the rest of your beads under each thread bridge, and I'll meet you at the end. We are coming down to our last 2 silver beads, picking up this one going under the last thread bridge. Picking up the last silver bead, going under the last thread bridge again. And then back up the bead we just added. This completes row 13. Now we'll prep for row 14. Row 14 is 1 silver, 1 white, 1 silver, and 8 red. 1 silver, 1 white, 1 silver, and 8 red. So to start, you're picking up your first 2 beads, which is a silver and a white, and you're going under the next thread bridge, right next to where your thread is exiting. Bring that down. Now bring your needle back through the last bead you added. No need to reinforce. Now continue adding the remainder of your beads in this order until you get to the end under each thread bridge. So this is our last red bead for this row, going under the last thread bridge. Back up the last bead we added. This completes row 14. Now we're on to row 15. For row 15, you need a total of 8 red and 2 white. There's 8 red and 2 whites. So to start row 15, you're picking up your first 2 beads, which in this case will be 2 reds, and you're going under the second thread bridge from where your thread is exiting. There's 1, there's 2. So you'll have to reinforce. Go back up the bead you just added, the last bead you added, go down the Delica on the left, and then back up the Delica on the right. Now continue adding the rest of your beads under each thread bridge, and I'll meet you at the end. Okay, I'm coming down to the last white bead, going under the last thread bridge. Then back up the bead I just added. And that completes row 15. So now for row 16, we're going to need a total of 8 red. 8 red beads. Now before we start row 16, we need to advance our needle so it's coming out of the next to the last bead on this row. So we want our thread coming out of this Delica here. So to do that, I'm going to advance my thread through these 2 beads here, then through these 2 beads here. So now my thread is coming out of the second to the last bead at the end. I'm going to pick up 2 red beads, and I'm going under the second thread bridge from where my thread is. So there's 1, there's 2, right there. And because that's the second thread bridge, I need to go back up this Delica and reinforce. Go down the Delica on the right, then up the Delica on the left. Now continue adding the rest of your 8 red beads under each thread bridge, and I'll meet you back. This is the last red bead for row 16, going under the last thread bridge, and back up the bead we just added. That completes row 16. For row 17, you'll need 7 red beads. Start by picking up your first 2 red beads, and you're going under the second thread bridge. There's 1, there's 2. reinforce, go back up the last bead you added, go down the Delica on the left, and back up the Delica on the right, and continue adding till you get to the end. I'm picking up my last red bead for row 17, going under that last thread bridge, and back up the bead I just added. That completes row 17. For row 18, you need 6 red beads. Start by picking up your first 2 red beads, go under the second thread bridge, reinforce, and continue adding your beads to the end. That's row 18. Row 19, you need 5 red. And as you can guess, we're counting down to get to the top. So pick up 2 out of the 5. Go under the second thread bridge. Go back up that last bead, reinforce, and continue. This is the last red bead for row 19. That's what you should have. Now we're going on to row 20. You need 4 red beads. Start by picking up 2, going into the second thread bridge, and reinforce, and continue. Last red bead for row 20. For row 21, you need 3 red beads. Pick up 2. Go into the second thread bridge. Reinforce. Pick up your last red bead. Go into that last thread bridge. That's row 21. And now we need 2 red beads to complete the top. So pick up those 2 red beads, go into the second thread bridge, go back up that last bead you added, and down the bead on the right, and back up the bead on the left. So that completes the top half of our earring. At this point, we're going to go ahead and add our wire guard and one of our earring findings. I'm going to pick up my wire guard, like that, bring that down. Now I'm going down the other side of my wire guard, and I also want to pick up my earring finding. So I'm going to position my earring finding like this, so that it's also going over the wire guard, and bring my needle through. Make sure that thread goes over the channel. Now I'm going to pass my needle through the Delica on the other side. Now if you don't have wire guardians, you can do an O-ring, and just add an O-ring to get your earring finding on there. So from here, I'm going to reinforce this by going back up the Delica on the left, and through the wire guard, and through my earring finding. Now I'm going to bring my needle back down the right side, the wire guardian and the Delica. And I'm going to reinforce that one more time, going back up the Delica, through the wire guardian. Also go through your earring finding, cross the channel here, making sure your thread stays in position, and then go back down the right side of the wire guardian and the Delica and pull. So that's pretty sturdy. So from here, I'm just going to weave my thread down a few beads. Not necessary to do knots on this because we're going to go around a couple of times. So just advance your needle down a few of these beads like that. Now I'm going to come back up the beads just inside of that row, like that. And then I'm going to come back down those beads again, like that. So that's not going anywhere. That's pretty strong. So I'm going to clip this thread here. And now I'm going to take my tail thread and thread my needle to complete the bottom half. So go ahead and thread your needle and I'll be right back. So I've got my needle threaded, and here's the way the earring is facing me right now. My thread's coming out over here, so I'm going to flip this up like this, and I want my thread to be coming out of the next to the last bead from the end. So right now it's coming down through this Delica here. So what I'm going to do is just take my needle like this and pull this up. And that was my tail thread, a little about 2.5 feet of tail thread. So if you don't have enough thread, you can easily just add a new piece of thread in and interweave the end and just get enough that you need. So from here, I'm going to call this row 24 and 4. So this whole earring is about 28 rows total. So I'm going to line up my beads for row 24. So what we need is a medium green and a light green to start. Medium green and a light green. And we're also going to need another light green, so that's 2. Now we need 2 dark greens, a medium green, 2 more dark greens, 2 light greens, 1 medium green, and 1 light green. So to recap, for row 24, that's a medium, 2 lights, 2 darks, 1 medium, 2 darks, 2 lights, 1 medium, and 1 light. So we're going to start by picking up our first 2 beads, a medium and a light. And we're going under our second thread bridge from where our thread is. So there's 1, and there's 2. That's our second thread bridge, so that's where you want to come through. And since it's our second thread bridge, we want to reinforce. So go back up the bead you just added. Come down the Delica on the right. But you have to straighten it out, and it's the only way you can do it is to reinforce it, otherwise it'll be crooked. So now come back up the Delica on the left. Pull. And there it is. Everything's nice and straight. So now continue adding the beads in this sequence under each thread bridge like we've been doing, and we'll meet you at the end. Coming down to the last light bead for row 24, going under the last thread bridge, and back up the bead we just added. That completes row 24. For row 25, we need 2 medium green, 2 light green, 2 dark green, 2 light green, and 2 medium green. So to recap for row 25, that's 2 medium, 2 light, 2 dark, 2 light, and 2 medium. So before we start row 25, we need to advance our needle, so it's coming out of the next to the last bead, this medium green bead here. So to do that, advance your needle through these 2 beads here. Now bring your needle through these 2 beads here, so that your needle's coming out of the next to the last bead. That will set us up to start row 25. So pick up your first 2 beads, which are the 2 medium green beads, and go under the second thread bridge from where your thread is. There's 1, there's 2. And continue adding your beads. Reinforce when you're coming into the second thread bridge. I'm picking up my last medium green bead for row 25, going under the last thread bridge. And that's what you should have. Now we're going on to row 26. For row 26, we need 2 medium, 1 light, 1 dark, 1 light, and 2 medium. Now to start row 26, we need to advance our needle so that it's coming out of the next to the last green bead. So to do that, you're going to bring your needle down through these 2 beads here, and then back up these 2 beads here. So now that we're in position, we're picking up our first 2 medium green beads, going under the second thread bridge from where your thread is coming out. So there's 1 and there's 2. Go back up the last bead you added, reinforce, go down the right, and then up the left. So now you're ready to continue adding the rest of your beads in the sequence, and I'll meet you at the end. This completes row 26. So now we're going on to row 27. You'll need 1 medium, 1 light, and 2 medium. Again, that's 1 medium, 1 light, and 2 medium for row 27. Now before we start row 27, we need to advance to the next to the last bead. So just like we did on these last rows, bring your needle down through 2 beads like that, and then up these 2 beads right here. So our thread is coming out of the next to the last bead on that row. So now we're ready to continue. Picking up your first 2 beads for row 27 is a medium and a light, going under the second thread bridge. There's 1, there's 2. Go back up the last bead you added, reinforce, go down the left, and up the right. Now picking up a medium bead, going under the next thread bridge. Picking up your last medium bead, going under the next thread bridge. This completes row 27. And we're down to our last row, row 28. So we need a total of 3 medium green beads. So pick up your first 2, go into the second thread bridge, there, go back up the last bead you added, reinforce, go down the bead on the right, and then back up the bead on the left. Pick up your last medium green bead, go into the last thread bridge, back up the bead you just added. That completes row 28. So at this point, all you need to do is weave your thread through, it doesn't matter which way you go, reinforce, and then cut your thread off, and I'll meet you back for the end. Okay. We're back and we're finished with this very festive Grinch pair of earrings. I timed the amount of time it takes to make one of these, and it's about an hour and a half, give or take a few minutes, just to do one earring. So you can count on this being a full afternoon project. So get a cup of tea, take a break, and just remind you that as you're doing each row, it might be easier to lay out all your beads for each row, and that really helps eliminate errors as far as, you know, missing a bead or adding one where one doesn't belong. So keep that in mind. Also, when you do your earring finding, because of the way the pattern is, I've got this earring facing out with the bump of the hat on the right hand side, and then I have my other earring so that the bump is on the left. Now if you don't like that, you can certainly have them both facing the same direction. It's whatever your preference is. So just keep that in mind when you're doing the orientation of your earring finding, whether you're using a hook or lever back. Just keep that tucked in the back of your mind, so that way you've got it facing whatever direction you want it. So I hope that you enjoyed today's tutorial. I wish you all a very happy holiday this year. I hope that you had fun making this. If you're not a subscriber yet, I hope that you certainly join. And those of you that have subscribed, I really want to thank you for joining me. Please give this video a thumbs up if you really like it. Share the link with your family and friends. I also sell my own jewelry. You'll see a link to the website posted in the description box. If you click more below this video, that'll open it up. It'll give you all the details of my website. Sometimes I run sales through the year, so keep an eye out for that. Also, there will be links to the suppliers where you can find these beads. And if you have any questions, feel free to email me. I'd love to hear from you. Also, feel free to leave a comment. So with that said, I hope you have a wonderful day, a wonderful week, very happy holidays to all of you, and happy beading.